Folks, welcome into that betting show for June 28th, 2019. It's a Friday. We will get you set up for the weekend right here on your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. He's Teddy Savranci. Give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm Donnie Seymour, right side VP. Kimbrel gets the save, Teddy, versus old team. And the meltdown in Manhattan once again. Let's get to the hot topic of the day. Those Mets. You saw it all over social media. Mike Francesa having meltdowns. Not as bad as that bullpen for the New York Mets. As we said, Teddy, a fifth straight day, a fifth straight blown lead, setting one of those all-time records. The Mets shut out for 8 innings, Teddy. Strike for 3 in the ninth. They're going to get a winner. They bring in their high-priced closer, and it all goes kaput in a 5-run inning for the Phillies. 4 straight wins over the Mets by the Phillies. Meltdown in Manhattan.
Yeah, Mickey Callaway's quote, "They're all tough at the moment." Excuse me. This one stings the worst because it just happened. This is a game that we all felt we really needed to win. Again, we put ourselves in a position to do that, and we didn't get it done. When you talk about bullpen meltdowns, there's nothing more demoralizing for a team when you win a game for 8.5 innings and let it go. And the Mets did that, obviously, 4 different times in 4 days in Philadelphia. But the bigger betting story in this game is the total. It's 1-0 in the ninth, and you can't cash your under 9 ticket? That's as brutal as it gets. There's nothing less fun than an 8-run ninth inning when you've got the under, especially when it's a walk-off 3-run home run to end the ballgame. That's just brutal. That's as tough a push as you'll ever take.
Yeah, sometimes those pushes feel like a loss in that instance because, too, you're looking at the Phillies, who, I mean, not the greatest bullpen in the world, but they have a pretty good closer. He comes in, gets the first guy out, and then all heck breaks loose. And, yes, you end up pushing that 9, which is absolutely ridiculous. Take a look at another game. How about this big price tag, Teddy? Houston holds a minus 205 price tag, and they end up getting shellacked 10-0 by those Pittsburgh Pirates. And how about this, Teddy? Astros now losers of 9 of 11, even though they do have 3 starters heading into the Major League Baseball All-Star game. Former Astros player Joe Musgrove cruises through 6 innings, an 8-0 lead, an easy win for those Buccos, Teddy.
The Astros are now 2-9 in their last 11 ball games. All right, this team is ice cold, and they're laying $2, $2.50, $3 every day. I'm not going to necessarily compare it to what we saw. I mean, the one that always stands out to me is when the Red Sox went, 7-20 in September of 2011. They were minus 250 and minus $3, and you bet against the Red Sox that entire month as they blew that 9-game lead in the AL East, and you made a fortune doing so. Betting against the Astros right now, done pretty well for yourself over the course of the last couple of weeks. Houston's too good to be this bad for this long. But when a team's not getting clutch hits and their pitching isn't what it was a few weeks ago and things are going south before the All-Star break, I'm not excited about laying any price with the Astros right about now.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that too, Teddy, is as you're looking and say, you know what, the lineup that they had out there for the past, 30, 45 days without Altuve's of the world, without the George Springers of the world, they were hitting, they were winning, and now these guys come back, taking a little bit to assimilate them back in. Still not without shortstop Carlos Correa. We'll see when he gets back in. But, hey, everybody's going to have some of these swoons here, especially in a June swoon. We'll see after the All-Star break if they can ramp it up. How about this one, Teddy? We previewed it a little bit yesterday. 2 games across seas in London that are going to take place. And the number one question that we had is, you know what? How's the game going to play out there? Betting-wise, can you get an edge in this series? Taking a look at the field dimensions, Teddy, pretty short here. 330 down both lines and a short center field of 385, which they're going to try to combat by putting a 16-foot wall in center field. Now, the interesting thing about this is we take a look in the United States, as we call hitting weather, hot, muggy on the East Coast, especially in New York, with Baltimore, with the Philadelphia Phillies, the New York Mets. But you go over there, you think you get a little bit of a reprieve, but how about this, Teddy? Over 90 degrees set for Saturday's game here at first pitch.
Yeah, exactly. So you have short dimensions for the field, even with a high fence, a 16-foot fence around it, and hot and humid conditions in a place that normally isn't particularly hot or humid. You talk about London in the summer, it's supposed to be cool and rainy. Well, not for these games. Definitely worth noting. And, of course, my favorite thing about these series in London is the mascot race. Henry VIII, Winston Churchill, Freddie Mercury, and Nessie. That's what they got in the UK. We don't have mascots like that in the USA.
Yeah, forget about that, Teddy. I have the race down in Washington with the presidents, and you have the sausage race. But getting Freddie Mercury into this race, kind of impressive there. Talk about one interesting thing here, Teddy, because when we look at a game in Oakland, not a great hitter's ballpark, but you do have the extra foul ground, which might steal an out or two. I noticed in this game in some of the write-ups here, there's actually 4,000 square feet more of foul ground in this ballpark than any major league ballpark, including Oakland. Do you think that might play into a factor? Because the one thing we haven't seen yet, Teddy, from an odds maker perspective, I don't have anything up on my docket here that says what maybe the total or the side would be in this game, but that's kind of an interesting element there where normal foul balls reaching the bleachers, maybe you steal an out or two there if you're looking to take an under.
Yeah, you probably could. The question is, how do you quantify that? You know, I mean, in theory, you're supposed to probably get an extra out or two in a 54-out ball game based on the fact that all of a sudden there's a lot more foul ground to track down foul balls with. That is real. But how do you quantify it? How do you put that, all right, it's worth this much of a run? Not necessarily easy to do for the markets, which means maybe there's some value here. Let's see what the total is. I'm fascinated to see how they price this series.
Yeah, Teddy, from a betting perspective here, because I'm more cautious. Like, I don't like to bet into the unknown of what's going to take place. Because even you saw earlier, like Tanaka out on the mound, you know, trying to throw some warm-up pitches to get a feel for the surroundings, because there is going to be 66,000 people there. And again, it's out of the creatures of habit where you're flying the cities you're used to. You're flying the hotels that you're used to. Now you're going out of your element, playing in a different environment. Is this more of a wait-and-see approach, or there's guys out here that'll fire on value if they see perceived value?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our goal as handicappers is to find these little edges. What do? The whole purpose of this show, the whole purpose of my existence as a handicapper is finding little edges. And little edges over time will pay off. That's what we do. So is this an edge? You know, with the extra foul ground? Maybe. But is that edge mitigated by the fact that it's a short field and it's going to be super hot and humid? It's not an easy answer. And that means for me, probably, I mean, again, let's see what the markets do, but I'm not necessarily going to be in a rush to bet the first game of the series. Let's see how it plays. We'll watch it and see if there are any opportunities for the second.
Now, you know what the best thing I do like about this show, Teddy, because information, as we always like to say, is king in this environment. No doubt about it. Somebody's going to watch this show and be like, you know what? I had no idea that they were over in London playing in a different environment there. So at least if we got that across to you there, where you could take a step back and say, you know what? Let me reevaluate the game. That's the whole goal of the show here for us. Top 20 college football, Teddy. We can't stop on this. We're getting in every single day to opening kickoff here at sportsbookreview.com right here on that betting show. Who are we going to take a look? Another Big Ten team. Seems like we're going through the entire Big Ten at this point. The Michigan State team football preview for 2019. How about this? A 200-1 ticket to win the 2019 NCAA title. Spartans team total set at 7.5. This is a team, Teddy, last year that had an 8-4 record, 5-4 in the Big Ten. Mark D'Antonio is back for his 13th season. Racked up 3 Big Ten titles over those years. And we're taking a look. The key to this team, Teddy, we're talking about returning starters on both sides of the ball. You're going to get your quarterback back. You're going to get your leading rusher back. You're going to get your top 2 pass receivers back, and a pretty good defense. 7.5. Just looking at that total without even looking at the schedule, you scratch your head and be like, kind of interesting here. But also a 200-1 ticket, not giving them much of a chance to win at all. It should be an interesting one. They can get out fast out of the gate, Teddy, when we take a look at some of the teams they have. Tulsa at home, Western Michigan at home, Arizona State at home before they get into their Big Ten play. Michigan State 2019, Teddy.
Well, look, I mean, Mark D'Antonio has been a bet-on head coach from day one in Sparty land. All right, up in East Lansing, they won. Prior to last year, they'd had double-digit win seasons 4 times in the last 5 years. Michigan State's 85 wins since 2010, number 11 among Power 5 conference teams during that span, 3rd in the Big Ten during that span. But last year was a disaster. And by a disaster for Michigan State, that's an 8-win season. All right, this program has high expectations. That's why we're talking about them in a top 20 preview prior to the campaign. 10 different offensive starters got hurt last year. They missed a combined 48 games, and Michigan State ended up the season with the number 117th ranked offense. Now, D'Antoni's always been a defense guy, but this offense last year, they couldn't run, they couldn't throw, they couldn't score points. You know, Lewerke suffered that shoulder injury at Penn State in week 6. And the Spartans ended up scoring 7 points or fewer in 4 of their last 7 games. Lewerke played through pain during that span, but now he's supposed to be healthy for his senior year. 7 offensive linemen with starting experience return. Again, a team that didn't really have a whole lot of strength up front last year. They've at least got guys with starting experience. They have a new offensive coordinator and a new offensive line coach. And, of course, when you look at this defense, the defense is going to be capable of keeping them in games. They're number one in the country in rush defense last year. Their defensive tackles in Panusiak and Williams are dynamite. The defensive end, Willicks could have gone to the NFL. He ended up breaking his leg, so they get him back. He led the Big Ten in tackles for loss last year. Defense is loaded. Special teams look really good too. The kick, and this is something that we don't talk about a lot in college football, and we should talk about it a little bit more. The teams that can punt well and kick field goals have an edge, especially with all the short line games that we see a team like Michigan State in. They got a great kicker and a great punter. Their punter, a senior now in his 6th season, he suffered a broken leg last year. He's got a 42-yard average. So the fundamentals should be there for Sparty. They're not a sexy team. They're good on defense. Wouldn't be surprised if Michigan State makes their backers a fair bit of money once again in 2019, even though the Michigan Wolverines in Ann Arbor tend to attract more of the spotlight in the Jim Harbaugh era.
See that? You can't take the guy out of Michigan right now. As we know, Teddy is a Michigan man in maize and blue. I like how you take the shot at the end of it right there. It's fantastic. We'll continue our previews here on college football throughout the summer as we get you ready for college football's opening day. But right now, let's take a look at some line movements. The best place on the internet to do that is with SPRodds.com. These lines are changing, including a total, Teddy, that's dropping here in Miami. If we take a look, opened up at 8.5 at most outlets, now sitting at 8. It's going to be the Philadelphia Phillies and the Miami Marlins, fresh off of sweeping the Phillies just a few games ago with a total of 8. It's going to be Velasquez and Hernandez on the mound today.
Yeah, and Velasquez coming off a strong start against this same Marlins team, just 1 hit, 1 run in 5 innings of work. Current Marlins hitting just a $164 against him in a solid 125 at-bat sample size. The Phillies bullpen was great all week. And Hernandez, obviously, he doesn't have a victory. He's 0-7 with a 4.54 ERA and 9 starts over the last 2 years. But since rejoining the Marlins rotation in mid-June, they like the advanced metrics the markets do. 19 strikeouts, only 3 walks in 16.2 innings of work. So with Miami's starting pitcher better than advertised potentially, and the Phillies bullpen better than advertised potentially, the under money, at least off the opener, has come in on this one. Although that money came overnight, we haven't seen any more of it in early betting action on Friday.
Teddy, we need an investigation here on these San Francisco games at home. It seems like the common theme every time the Giants are at home is they seem to take money. Doing it once again. Early line opens in the Giants' direction once again, opening around -115, now down to -105. Diamondbacks and the Giants tonight. If we take a look at the pitching matchups that we have, it's going to be Kelly versus Anderson in this game. Over-under opens up at 8, Teddy, about maybe 7.5, but the same theme comes through again. They're betting the Giants.
Not my money. And, when you see the betting markets sometimes, I call it they bang their head in the wall again and again and again. And the famous story in recent years, of course, is when the Cleveland Browns were god-awful in back-to-back years. And the wise guys, oh, look at the Browns, look at the advanced metrics. And every week they're betting the Browns, and every week, obviously, they get slapped around betting the Browns. I can't tell you why they're betting San Fran. We talked yesterday, Bruce Bochy complaining about his lineup. They got 3 hits yesterday. Bruce Bochy, quote, "We got to swing the bats. Very little action out there. Our margin for error is so small. We're just not scoring a lot of runs. One little mistake, and it seems like it cost us." Worth noting, Merrill Kelly mowed down the Giants twice already this season. A $1.59 ERA in 2 starts against them this season.
How about this total on the rise, Teddy? Looking at an 11 offshore in Colorado, now up to 12.5 as we take a look at Ryu versus Senzatella, the Dodgers and the Rockies. Rockies getting about +174 in this game. Not even Walker Buehler, who was on fire, could escape elevation. But now you get Ryu to go up in there. And look, bettors thinking this is going to go over. Thin air, opens at 11, now sits at 12.5.
Yeah, of course, Dodgers went over the total by themselves yesterday, A wild slugfest. Ryu's been as good as any pitcher in baseball this year. Ryu with the 12.5, you're like, what the? And then you start digging. Look at his numbers at Coors Field. Since the start of 2016, he's had 3 starts there. He's 0-3. He's lasted a total of 10.2 innings of work in those 3 starts. He's given up 17 runs. That is an ugly track record of a hurler at a particular field, obviously where the ball doesn't break the same way that it does at sea level. And of course, 11 gets bet up to 12.5. It's not just starting pitching. It's got to be the weather. Temperatures in the 90s today in Denver, and the wind blowing out to left field.
Ooh, watch out for team launch angle in that one. We'll take a look at that. But watch what you bet here, Teddy, right here on That Betting Show. How about this one? The reeling Mets face the first-place Braves, who got beat yesterday in the Windy City. Now you come to the Mets. It's going to be hot. And as we like to say in baseball, you're only as good as your next day's momentum with your starting pitcher. Take a look at this one. The Mets favored by about minus 140, total of 7.5. The reason why we brought this game up here, Teddy, is because I want to get your opinion on this one. We've seen the way the Mets have lost. Theoretically, you have leads. You're supposed to hold on. You could be coming in on a 5-game winning streak, but you're devastated after 5 losses. Now you come home. Is there extra value on the opposing team with shaking confidence on the Mets? Or you just say, you know what? DeGrom's on the mound. I'll let it sit there.
It's not like Soroka can't pitch. When you're laying a price with the Mets in this ballgame, you're laying a price saying, boy, I hope maybe we can get a couple out of the bullpen, or maybe DeGrom can go all the way. Because that's the way it is for the Mets when you're talking about each of the last 5 ball games blowing multi-run leads. The first time any team has lost 5 straight games in which they led by at least 2 runs since 2011, when the Mets did it in April of that year. Atlanta's in a different category than the Mets. The Mets are falling apart, and the Braves are World Series contender. Dallas Keuchel, even after they lost their finale in Chicago to split the series with the Cubs. Quote, "It's a complete team, Keuchel. I know a thing or two about complete teams. This group really excites me day in and day out." DeGrom has owned Atlanta. He's owned everybody. A $188 career ERA for DeGrom in 19 career starts against the Braves. But can I lay a price with the Mets right now? Only if I'm betting them on the 5-inning line, not if I'm taking them for the first full game. And frankly, given the psychological state of the Mets right now, I don't even want him on the 5-inning line today.
Yeah, and it looks like probably Diaz won't be available either, so it makes that bullpen even shorter. So you are banking on at least 7 innings out of DeGrom, who pitched well, Teddy, last time out against the Braves. We'll see what happens. NL Central battle tonight in Cincinnati. Reds looking at a plus 110 ticket, and this one a total of 9. The Cubs are 44-37 on the season. The Reds 36-42. Scooter Jeanette back in the lineup, estimated today. Hamels versus Gray.
Yeah, the Reds lineup got going against Milwaukee. Scored 28 runs during a 4-game set, and then against the Angels, back-to-back games in which all they had was a solo home run. This little quote, this little stretch here really tests your resilience to bounce back. We were playing so well, now we've lost a few. It's a great challenge. Teams that have good seasons find a way to bounce back. It's going to be fun to see how we react on Friday. This is a big homestand for the Reds. It really is. 9 games over 10 days before the All-Star break. This is a team that's 6 games under 500. Their pitching's been great. Their lineup obviously hasn't. And, there's talk of them being sellers. There's talk of them being buyers. We'll see what happens over the next 10 days. That'll determine a lot about the future of this Reds team. Obviously, Sonny Gray has been dicey. He's not a great matchup against the Cubs lineup, in large part because he's been giving up dingers. 2 home runs allowed last time, 2 home runs allowed to start before that. And by the way, the last time he pitched against the Cubs back in May, he gave up 2 dingers in that ball game as well. Chicago with the positive momentum, rallying from 5 runs down yesterday to beat Atlanta. The Craig Kimbrell save to close out the game. Jason Hayward, who's been ice cold for years, all of a sudden is hot for Chicago. And Cole Hamels certainly has a strong track record against this current Reds lineup. Fun game, fascinating game, not one that I'm involved with from a wagering standpoint.
Yeah, a nice stop in the final out there by Rizzo at first base yesterday to keep that whole Kimbrel. Yes, get that good save first time out, and we'll keep it moving on. So we'll see what happens tonight. Texas and Tampa tangle in the Dome. We also saw a line drop in this game, Teddy. Rangers and the Rays. The Rays were favored by about minus 150, minus 155 at the open. Now down to around minus 130. Checking out SBRodds.com. A total of 8. The Rangers 45-36 on the season. Coming in, Joey Gallo back, 2 more blasts yesterday. Coming back from the IL. We'll see if that offense can stay hot there in the Dome. Lynn versus Chirinos tonight.
Yeah, this is 2 teams heading in opposite direction right now. Tampa's really struggling. They finished their road trip 3-7. They're 5-11 their last 16. They're coming home off a rain delay and then an 18-inning marathon that lasted, close to 6 hours against the Twins yesterday. And yeah, they won the game. But in winning that game, their bullpen threw 16 scoreless innings. 16 yesterday, which leaves the bullpen probably a little bit short today. And Chirinos, the last 6 outings have all been starts. He's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in 5 of them. But we're not talking about a guy that's going to go into the 8th or 9th inning. And it's a Rangers team. Look, you can make a case that Texas is the biggest surprise in MLB this season. The good teams are supposed to be good. The bad teams are supposed to be bad. And here's a Rangers team that's supposed to be bad. And guess what? They're good. And they're getting better. And they're winning games on the road right now. And Lance Lynn, the last time out, gave up 5 runs and 6 hits. Say, oh, he wasn't as good. No. He retired 19 of the last 21 hitters that he faced. He was 1 strike away from getting out of the first inning and ended up giving up 4. Manager Chris Woodward, quote, because you get down 4-0 like that, he's 1 strike away from getting out of the first with no runs. A lot of guys fold up at that point. They just kind of give in. He had 40-something pitching after 2, and somehow he ends up going 7 and gets the win. Only look at Texas for me in this one. That's a tale of 2 teams headed in opposite directions.
Yeah, how about that? Texas could be a buyer at the deadline when we always thought they probably would be sellers trying to rebuild for the future. Off the mic here, Teddy. This is really good news for our business and our industry here. If you haven't heard so yet yesterday, the rising gambling tide floats all boats. If you don't know what that means here, is gambling is good across the country as long as it spreads. You saw the record hold or the record take for New Jersey, $318 million was wagered. And then if you take a look at Nevada, $317 million has been wagered, Teddy. It's growing across the country. We see, being in New Jersey, it's great. We knew it was coming. We were ready for it. The mobile gaming has been fantastic. Pennsylvania jumps on board. New York, even though they're going to get in their casinos, they don't have the mobile yet that's going to be able to take away all of that from New Jersey. But as long as this goes across the country, yes, some of these states are going to take a little bit of a hit. But for the greater growth of gambling in the sports industry, Teddy, I'm really excited. It's fantastic stuff to review.
Oh, my God. It really is exciting to talk about.
Yeah.
And again, this is 1 year into legalization. The handle in New Jersey has superseded that in Nevada. That's a huge deal. That has happened fast. And we're not even talking about Pennsylvania that has population, and California that just introduced a bill yesterday, and New York, and et cetera, et cetera. This is only going to get bigger. All that being said, you say, oh my God, Nevada, what happened? Nevada's not going to be the center. Las Vegas isn't the center of the industry anymore. Yes, it is. Nevada set record handle for May. All-time record. They broke the record they set in 2018, which broke the record they set in 2015. Nevada's doing just fine. What's happened is all the bettors, or most of the bettors who are betting with bookies, are now betting legally. We've taken something that was completely underground and brought it into the light. Good job, Supreme Court. Good job, New Jersey. And I'll give them credit. Kudos to Jersey. You guys beat us. We're still the kings, though, out here in Las Vegas. We still have the odds makers that set the numbers for the whole country. So I'll take that as a nice consolation prize.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, just looking at how everybody's getting, especially the business that we're in, trying to educate the public, have fun with it. Of course, the goal is to win money, but it looks like it's growing across the country exactly the way we thought. And not too long ago, Teddy, we always like to joke here, the NFL fighting, Major League Baseball fighting. If this happens, it's going to ruin the sports. Now everybody's climbing on board. Complete legalization. It's spreading across. It's great stuff. It's good for the industry. Fantastic for sportsbookreview.com. And we're happy to be here doing this on That Betting Show. June 28, 2019. You have a great weekend set up today, a little bit later, Teddy. Before we get out of here, real quick on this subject, the DraftKings out of New Jersey pays out the winner for the World Cup already before the game is played today versus France. How about that? Good advertising.
It's good marketing, I mean, and again, when a sportsbook will make that type of decision when their liability isn't through the roof, it's always good marketing, and I give them all the credit for doing that. Market by paying out tickets before the event, everybody likes that.
Amen. And it's great stuff here. Thanks for tuning in once again on June 28th, 2019. Your one-stop shop for all your sports betting needs. He's Teddy Savransky. Once again, give him a follow on Twitter at Teddy_covers. I'm Donnie Seymour, Right Side VP. Have a great weekend. We'll be back at it on Monday. Good luck.